hard on the brake, hard on the throttle, launch ready. Wow! That's insane! This is the brand new Acura NSX, but not just any NSX. This is the Type S. And it is the most incredible, one of the rarest and one of the coolest NSXs you can't buy.
Hold it right there, guys. I bet you weren't expecting this, but TFL is going to be talking about knives, specifically kitchen knives, specifically Kamikoto. 800 years of experience going all the way back to the Edo period, real Japanese steel. We're talking about a knife that is beveled on one side for super sharpness. Their product range features a vast array of Japanese steel knives, such as the 3-piece Kampeki knife set that comes with the Nakiri vegetable knife, which is 7 inches long, the slicing knife, which is 8.5 inches long, and the utility knife, which is 5 inches long. Having to go through an arduous 19-step process in order to make these knives, Kamikoto's bladesmiths have over 100 years of experience between all of them. And these are all handmade knives, and they have a lifetime guarantee. Now I have that Kampeki 3-piece knife set, and it comes with a certificate of authenticity and instructions for cleaning and sharpening. But most importantly, what we do here at the Fast Lane Car is we cut auto parts. Why? Because we don't use vegetables. However, instead of a shiitake mushroom, we're cutting through rubber with the vegetable knife. Now, one of the things at TFL we do is we review motorcycles, and as such, having the 8.5-inch slicing blade, which is beveled on one side, by the way, allows you to go into the tire, cut through it, and of course, have a great day, because cutting through tires is what we do. Get your own set of precision Kamikoto knives made from Japanese steel and $50 off any purchase by clicking on the link below or going to kamikoto.com/fastlanecar.
Now the reason you can't buy an NSX Type S is because they are all sold out. There are 300 for the US market, and all 300 are accounted for. Just 350 total in the entire world. Something like 30 for Japan, 15 for Canada, eh? So congrats Canada, and then a few here and there in other markets. But yeah, all 300 coming to the States have all been accounted for, even with an MSRP of over $170,000. Now this one is serial number 000 out of 000 because this is a pre-production vehicle. When Acura was designing the NSX Type S, they decided they needed to make it look different for such a special model. And they could have just slapped a different bumper on it and called it a day. But what they did instead was redesign the whole front clip. They gave it kind of this lower, longer look. They even moved the Acura badge from up here on the hood to down here on the bumper. Now everything you see is pretty much different from a standard NSX, even the headlights. They tinted the headlights to give it a more sinister look. Huge air intakes here for some additional cooling, and this carbon fiber, it's actually functional. This whole front end is so different, they needed some additional strength, and that's where the carbon fiber comes in. All right, we're gonna do a launch control launch in the quickest and the fastest Acura ever made. See what this experience is like. So I've gone into track mode, and then it should be hard on the brake, hard on the gas, and we'll see what this thing does. Now, I've never really driven an NSX. Okay, I drove one at about 15 miles an hour on ice. This is not ice, and we're not gonna be going 15. All right, track mode, hard on the brake, hard on the throttle, launch ready. Wow! That's insane! We all been sleeping on the NSX for years! That was crazy! That was Tesla quick. That is the advantage of having not only gasoline but electric architecture. You can get that instant burst of electricity, and then when that engine spools up, you get the sound, you get the excitement. Hybrids are cool, folks. Not all hybrids are Priuses. Wow! So what about the engine and drivetrain in the Type S? Well, it's different from a standard NSX, and they've accomplished that in some pretty cool ways. The engine in the Type S, 3.5-liter twin-turbo V6 like a standard NSX, but it's got its turbochargers off of the GT3 Evo race car. That brings the boost pressure up to 16.1 psi, which is about 1 psi more than the standard car. But there's more to it than that. So 20 of the additional 27 horsepower that you get in the Type S come from engine changes, but the other 7 Well, those come from changes to the electrical system, because keep in mind the NSX, of course, is a hybrid, so they've reworked the battery to allow more usable capacity in the battery, and they've also retuned the motors and retuned some of the programming, so you get a little bit of extra punch out of the electric drive system. So that brings the total system output to 600 horsepower, an additional 27 over the standard car, 20 from the gasoline side and 7 from the electric side. All right, here we go. Some lap time in the new NSX Type S. Oh, what an absolute machine. Why does everybody not have an NSX? Okay, well, they're, in this case, $170,000+, but the grip is crazy. Now, the Type S does have specifically designed Pirelli P0s, and they are labeled HO, so you know that they are the Acura branded version of the Pirelli. But the grip is amazing for a mid-engine car, the level of front-end grip. Wow! Not a lot of understeer to speak of whatsoever. Now, I are following a lead car, which is driven by an Acura NSX Pro driver, so I'm not saying that we're going to be able to keep up with this gentleman, but what an absolute blast. The car is so neutral out of the box, and the power, 80, 90, 100, I can't even keep up with it. That is berserk. Torque is rated at 492 pound-feet, and it's got a 9-speed dual-clutch automatic. They've also reworked the transmission a little bit for some slightly quicker shifts. So you might notice that the Type S has blacked-out badges. You're probably thinking, blacked-out badges, what's the big deal? Apparently, it was an enormous deal to get approval for the blacked-out badges. Every other Acura has chrome badges, but the Type S, they're blacked out, and I guess the Performance Center pushed and pushed and rallied and pushed to convince Acura to allow them to put a black badge on the front and the back of this car, just to let you know it's something special. An interesting story behind the Type S script along the side of this car. When they were designing the Type S, they realized, well, we need to give it a badge, but they couldn't put one on the front end of the vehicle like you'd find on other Type S's in the grille. They simply didn't have the room, and they also wanted as much cooling as possible because it deserves it. So they also thought about putting one on the back, but what they did instead was a decal along the side, just a simple, lightweight decal, and it's kind of reminiscent of older Acuras of the past. Now, this car does have the carbon ceramic brakes, which are optional on the NSX. I probably wouldn't get them because I'm not cool enough to be doing this kind of stuff on a regular basis, but if you are, this is the choice to get. The noise is awesome. What an interesting sound that comes out of the back of this car. Not too much in terms of turbos, so this car does have the turbos off of the GT3 race car, but you don't get a lot of kind of turbo whooshes. Now, this does have an intake tube, which is a tube that runs from the intake straight into your soul. It's a tune for the Type S to be even louder, and that's where a lot of the sound is coming from. So you got a lot of induction noise, and it really does have a great tone to it. Super surprised by that. And I know that this car is, what, going on 6 years old, something like that? Somewhere in that neighborhood, but it just still looks phenomenal. Like, this is just a heck of a good design. Full throttle. I'm gonna back off a little bit so I don't send one of 300 into a wall. Wow, it gets to 100 like I've never seen before. That's amazing. On the inside, the NSX really has aged quite gracefully. Lots of cool contours and intersecting shapes. A lot going on this dash design that makes it stand out from the crowd. The steering wheel in the NSX is certainly one of the most interesting aspects of the interior. And maybe wheel is the wrong term. It's more of a steering square. Now, it's got a flat bottom, but it also has a nearly flat top, very similar to the new C8 Corvette. Lots of fantastic bolstering. The leather quality is absolutely top notch, and I do like the carbon accents throughout as well, plus paddle shifters. Not the best paddle shifters I've ever felt, but you know, they're pretty big. They are connected to the wheel. I prefer them on the column, but they do get the job done. Steering, not a huge amount of feel through the steering, but a lot of feel through the brakes, so you can really get a good sense of exactly what's going on with those giant brakes. Now, the actual Type S is wider than a standard NSX. I believe it's 10 millimeters wider in the track in the front, and then something like 20 in the rear. And it does have a feature where if you hold down on the left paddle for 0.6 of a second, it will get you into the lowest possible gear, so you have the most possible acceleration. Oh, wow, those brakes are amazing. I'm sorry, but this is the LFA of this generation. Maybe not all that appreciated today, but this is incredible. Thank you, Acura, for that incredible experience. I really appreciate that. I do apologize. I did get a little nerd sweat on your steering wheel, but I wasn't going to be the one to put one of 300 US Type S's into a wall. Whew, and thankfully I didn't. The seats inside of the Type S are really pretty good. There's a couple different designs. There's a full leather design, there's a leather and Alcantara design like this one, but they're supportive, and they've got NSX in the headrest, which was a big deal on the Type S. Looks fantastic. Also different on the Type S, the stitching along the dashboard. The rest of the interior, well, it's pretty familiar Acura actually. For example, the gear selector are these buttons. They work pretty well, although there's not a whole lot of excitement or drama around them. The info screen, you know, it works, but it is looking a little bit dated. Keep in mind, the NSX is going on several years old. But apart from that, you've got nice features like heated seats with the smallest buttons I've ever seen, automatic climate control, and a partially digital gauge cluster. But this is one special car. Not only does it look cooler, but it's got more power than a standard NSX, and it is a swan song to this generation of NSX. A really cool car. Talk about modern day collectibles. You think this is going to be affordable in the future? No way! This is never going to depreciate. This is going to be the car that you show up to Amelia Island in, and the judges are like, ooh, it's got the black badge. Ooh, is the badge in the right place in the front? Does it have the right bumper? They really did a lot to make this thing pretty darn special. As always, this has been Tommy with the Fast Lane Car. Check out tflcar.com for the latest and greatest in new car reviews.